Hi, this is Emma from Centered Within. I want to talk about self belief, believing in yourself. I've spoken about trusting yourself. But this is a real deep seated feeling that you believe in yourself. And this is something I will probably work on for the rest of my life because whether you're healing or whatever you're doing, there's always layers. There's always layers. Always something will come in, something new for you to learn. If you want to expand and grow and change and pivot and whatever it might be, even if you don't, something will surface, but you just may not recognize what that is. And you may push it to one side, hide it, or don't want to deal with it. But when you choose that you want to, these varying different elements, these layers will come up from time to time. So it never stops. You never like wake up one day, it's like, da-da, I'm complete. It's all done. It doesn't happen like that. And it's not a bad thing because you're I was gonna say unveiling, yeah, I suppose unveiling another element of you. And for me, self-belief, it's always been with me. Always been with me. And I think such a young child as well. And I've done a huge amount of work on it. But it like yesterday, it was just like boom, it really hit me. And I mean, there was a period of time, and this has happened quite a few times. There is energies are very strong at the moment. Like for instance, because you think, oh, does it have an impact? It does have an impact, and especially if people are feeling it collectively, it will, like a tidal wave. Some will feel it stronger than others for varying different reasons. But like one example at the moment, even though it's been the Chinese New Year, and I didn't even know this, so the Chinese New Year was on the 23rd of January. And we're transitioning the transition from the tiger to the year of the rabbit. But the actual full transition doesn't fully take place until the 6th of February. So the transition is still there, and the tiger is very much up and down, instability. And I've been really, really feeling that because I did a ceremony to bring myself into the year of the rabbit. But yesterday, within a walk of an hour, I was feeling every single emotion you could ever think of. And I only just made it back here before I burst into tears. All the things I was going to do, I just thought, no, I'm just not going to do this anymore. I need to find something easy because this just seems so difficult all the time. I just fed up with push, push, push. Although I don't push, push, push. I've stopped doing that, but I felt like I was. And it was just like, at the beginning of the walk, it was like every possibility was available. At the end of the walk, all the decisions I've made, I'm not going to do. I'm just going to find the easy route and then just go back to what I was before, which actually is impossible for me to do. So when you feel that huge wave, excuse me, sometimes it is the planetary lineup. It is a new energy that's flowing in. It can be anything from a collective feeling. So we are always affected. We will always feel the tsunami or the ripple. But when you doubt yourself, when you have very little belief in yourself, moments like that will hit you even harder because you will then internally blame yourself. And I did yesterday, I was like blaming myself. I was just like, I obviously can't get this right. I can't do this right. And the more I was thinking about it, the more I was getting angry, the more I was getting upset. And I was like, see, I knew it. I knew I couldn't do it. And this is whilst walking. So I was very, very communicative in my head, trying to keep a straight face to some degree, whilst I was having a massive argument in my head and about to cry. lots of fluff. But I could really feel that lack within me, that feeling of lack, that there was so much lack. It was just like nothing existed. Like there was just nothing. Obviously there's everything. But in my head in that moment, and those feelings of doubt, like, why am I even writing a book? Why am I even doing this? What is the purpose of this? And it's like you go down that rabbit hole. And when these energies come through, wounds that you have, and they're not necessarily wounds that you necessarily need to deal with. You don't have to deal with everything all in one go. But there may be a wound you've been healing, you've been working on, or it's just naturally been healing because you've been doing some other work. When these energies come in, that gets really poked. You ever got a scab, but there's still an opening at one end? So this will come in, it's like a bit of salt water. So if you went into the sea or poured some salt water, you'd be like, oh, it's healing, but that hurts. Or you knock the scab off, you're like, oh. So you'll get that feeling well. So it's like you have the collective feeling, you'll have a planetary lineup, there's a transition in energy. Whether you are tuned into it or not, you will feel it on some level. There could have been an argument in the family, even though you're not actually part of it. You feeling the repercussions of it. There could have been a big issue at work, even though you're not actually involved in it. You can feel that. So it's all you feel it. Have you ever walked into a room, you're like, oh gosh, that has an impact on you because you can feel it, whether you're involved in it or not. So when big things, collective things are going on, whether you're tuned into it or not, you will feel it at some degree. Some of it will be a tsunami feeling, some of it will be a ripple effect feeling. Or just tiny little, you'll just sense something. And when that does happen, you can be triggered in that moment because it can hit a wound. It can touch on a wound. Now, sometimes you'll feel it more than others because of the processes you're going through or what you're going through or changes you're going through. So let's say you're doing your day-to-day thing. You may not feel it as much because you're in a routine, things are going okay or things are going well. You're feeling a bit off, you want to cry, you're not too sure, but hey, I'm good to go. And you just carry on. Now, if you're changing something or transitioning into something, there's that period of the gap in between. So I've got like a really dry throat. I've got my what was it? Rose hip. I did somewhat of a rather strenuous exercise this morning and my body's feeling it. So my rose hip is to heal that feeling. So there's a gap in between. You've made the choice. You've not necessarily solidified and gone into it, and you're not necessarily left it either. You've got that gap in between it. And that gap in between, you can be like, you don't feel grounded. You don't quite belong here. You don't quite belong there. And you feel a bit all over the place. Now, these moments happen all the time, like when you move house or you divorce or separate or you finish a relationship, change jobs. These transitions are bigger. The gaps are bigger. The moment in between is really big. And it feels like you don't know where you belong type of thing sometimes. And they can be smaller, like anything from you're waiting to meet someone. And it's that gap in between. It's like that limbo feeling. You're not here and you're not there. So if that gap in between that you're going through a healing process or you've done a huge piece of work, but you still need that. When you do a huge piece of healing work, there's that integration, there's that transition stage from allowing that to absorb into every fibre of your being to then continuing. So those bits can be quite, it's like you feel sometimes vulnerable. And that's why sometimes you think you've gone back a step. What have I done wrong? I thought I was healing. I thought I was doing really well. So you've got all these things interplaying all the time. And when you do lack in your belief in yourself, then you go, well, I've done something wrong. What have I done wrong? Well, I thought did my healing practice. I've obviously done something wrong. I know I've done something wrong. And then you go on and on and on. Because it's a part of you, it's like a default setting. It's something you use for many, many years. And it's something you go to. It's like a comfort blanket, you know, and you think, well, how can that be a comfort blanket? Because it's what you know. It's what you've done for so long, so you just do it. But when you recognise what that moment is, and you're not stepping back, you may have been triggered, you may have felt that the wound has been opened, but it's still healing. You just might have lifted the scab, it might have been poked. But actually, you're far forward than you could ever give yourself any credit for in that moment. Now, you're not going to be able to recognise that, but what you do is step back and allow that moment to be. When you can next do so, then you bring in your self-care. You look after yourself, you take care of yourself. Maybe check in, was there like a global energetic thing or planetary lineup? Speak to someone. Write about it. Know that this will happen again, and it's okay to feel like this. You haven't done anything wrong, you're not going back. If actually you've done a huge healing process, an integration process, and you've moved on to the next step, you've just done it all so quick. And yes, you've gone back to the default setting. You've been doing it for 30 odd years. You're not going to like over so many years. So let's say you've been talking to yourself like that for 35 years and you've done 3 years of healing work. You're not going to go straight like that. There are still going to be times that you go back to that, but this time you catch yourself and you think, okay, I've done it. I understand. It's happened. And you don't berate yourself anymore. You're aware of it. And maybe you need to write about it. Maybe you need to talk about it. Or maybe you just need to acknowledge that this will happen from time to time and it is okay. Because you get through that process and you find the tools to get yourself through the process. You find the tools of self-care. Maybe you need to add something. Maybe you're looking for a bit more support in this area. And then you'll find that you're looking at books or blogs or something that actually is supporting you in this area, and someone's talking about something, oh, okay, great, I'm going to give that a go. Or, oh my God, I didn't realise that. Because you're ready to hear that now. You wouldn't have been ready back then. Because sometimes you think, well, why didn't I learn that before? Because you weren't ready. You're ready to hear the message when you're ready to absorb it, take it on board and use it. And it won't come any sooner than that moment. I'm just seeing if there's anything else that needs to come through. No, I think that's it. As always, sending you so much love.